My dad said it's too chaotic this year. Let's skip you coming. I said, okay. Then I saw a video on Instagram. My sister's ex and even the neighbors, teenagers, all at the table. My kids cried. So I took a picture of every unwrapped gift texted returning these today. Within 30 minutes, my mom was at my door, yelled. I opened, and this is what happened. This is a long one, and everything I'm about to tell you happened over the past 8 months, and I'm still processing how completely insane my family turned out to be. Before I get into the crazy story, let me give you some background so you understand just how messed up this situation became. I 34 male work as a facilities manager for a large hospital system here in Denver. Been there for 9 years, make about $87,000 a year, which is decent money but nothing spectacular. I've got 2 kids, Emma, who's 9, and Jake, who's 7, from my marriage that ended 3 years ago. My ex-wife Sarah moved to Portland with her new boyfriend, but the kids live with me most of the time. She sends money when she remembers to, which isn't very often. The divorce was actually pretty civil. We just grew apart over time, no big drama or cheating or anything like that. Sarah's a good mom when she's around, just not the most reliable person in the world. The kids have adjusted to the situation pretty well by now. My family, though, that's where things get complicated. My parents, Linda and Robert, live about 20 minutes away in this middle-class neighborhood where they've been for the past 15 years. Dad's been retired from the post office for 3 years now, and Mom works part-time as a receptionist at a dental office. They're not struggling financially, but they're definitely not wealthy either. Then there's my sister Jessica. She's 29 and has always been what you'd call the golden child of the family. Mom and Dad think she walks on water and can do absolutely no wrong. According to them, she's some hotshot marketing director living in Austin, Texas, making 6 figures and living this glamorous lifestyle. The reality, as you'll discover, is quite different. Now here's where my best friend Tommy comes into the picture. Tommy's been my closest friend since we met in college 15 years ago. He works as a supervisor for the city's water department and has absolutely zero filter when it comes to calling people out on their garbage. He tells you exactly what he thinks, which usually involves brutally honest observations about people and situations that most folks would sugarcoat. Tommy's also the guy who warned me years ago that my family was treating me like their personal ATM machine. Dude, he told me after my parents asked me to help pay for their new fence last summer, your sister supposedly makes more money than you, but somehow you're always the one they call when they need cash. That's not normal family behavior. I should have listened to him much sooner than I did. So anyway, it's February of this year, and Mom calls me about her 60th birthday party coming up in March. Usually her birthday is this massive production. She absolutely loves being the center of attention and expects everyone to make a huge fuss over her. We're talking decorations, fancy cake, the whole 9 yards. Honey, she says during the phone call, I think this year might be too hectic with everything that's going on. Maybe we should keep it small and simple and skip having you and the kids over this time. I was genuinely confused because Mom never wants to keep her birthday celebrations small. This is the same woman who posts countdown timers on Facebook, starting 2 weeks before her birthday every single year. Okay, Mom, whatever you think is best, I said, not wanting to argue about it. She seemed really relieved when I agreed and hung up the phone pretty quickly. The kids had already picked out presents for her. Emma had made this beautiful photo album with pictures of our family, and Jake had used his allowance money to buy her some fancy hand cream from the department store. When I told them we weren't going to Grandma's party this year, they were disappointed, but didn't make a huge scene about it. Looking back now, I should have known something fishy was going on, but at the time I figured maybe she was stressed about Dad's health issues, or worried about money or something normal like that. Tommy came over that weekend to help me fix my garbage disposal that had been acting up, and I mentioned the birthday situation to him while we were working. That's really weird, he said, lying on his back under my kitchen sink. Your mom has never missed a chance to make you drive over there with expensive presents so she can show off to the neighbors. Maybe she's mellowing out in her old age, I suggested. Tommy made this snorting sound from under the sink. Yeah, right. Something fishy is definitely going on here, mark my words. As usual, he was absolutely right. Mom's birthday came and went without a single word from anyone in my family, which struck me as really strange because usually Mom calls the day after her party to either complain that I didn't spend enough money on her gift or to tell me all about who showed up and what presents they brought her and how wonderful everything was. I was at work the following Tuesday, sitting at my desk going through maintenance requests when I got a text message from my cousin Danny. He lives down in Colorado Springs, but we stay in touch through social media and text messages. Hey man, wasn't your mom's birthday party this past weekend? Looked like she had quite the celebration. I had absolutely no idea what he was talking about until he sent me a direct link to Mom's Facebook page. There was a video from her birthday party. And let me tell you, it was definitely a party. I'm talking about 20 plus people crammed around their dining room table and spilling into the living room. Mom was sitting at the head of the table wearing her fancy blue dress that she only brings out for special occasions, blowing out candles on what looked like an expensive custom cake from that bakery she always talks about. My sister Jessica was right there front and center, wearing this designer-looking black dress that I'd never seen before. Her ex-boyfriend Tyler was sitting right next to her, which was absolutely bizarre because Mom used to constantly complain about that guy. She called him a loser and a deadbeat when they were dating 2 years ago. Their baby was in a high chair taking up prime real estate at the table. But the really crazy part was seeing all the other people who were there. The neighbor kids were at the party, the same teenagers that my dad had banned from playing on our street last summer because their music was too loud. Mrs. Patterson from down the block was there laughing and eating cake, even though Mom calls her that nosy woman every other week when she complains about the neighborhood. Even Sandra, my mom's coworker from the dental office, was there having a great time. This is the same Sandra that Mom is always complaining about, saying she doesn't know how to do her job properly and makes everyone else's work harder. Literally, everyone was there. Everyone except me and my children. I sat in my office cubicle watching this video of my entire extended family celebrating without us, and I felt this cold, angry feeling building up in my chest. The flower arrangement that I had sent over that morning, because I always send flowers even when I can't attend family events, was sitting on the side table in the background. I could see that the card was still stuck in it, completely unopened. Tommy called me during my lunch break and could immediately tell from my voice that something was seriously wrong. What happened? You sound like someone just told you terrible news. I explained the whole situation with the Facebook video and how I'd been deliberately excluded from this huge family celebration. There was a really long pause on the other end of the phone. Are you kidding me right now? He said. They specifically told you not to come and then threw this massive party without you? That's exactly what happened. That's completely messed up behavior. Who does something like that to their own son and grandchildren? I didn't have a good answer for that question. I just kept thinking about those expensive gifts sitting wrapped up in my bedroom closet at home, and how excited Emma and Jake had been about giving them to their grandmother. When I got home from work that evening, Emma asked if we could call Grandma to see how her birthday celebration went. I told her that Grandma was probably busy cleaning up, and maybe we'd call her later in the week. I wasn't really sure what I was going to do about the situation, but I knew for certain that I was completely done being treated like their backup plan. I spent that entire evening thinking about the birthday party situation and getting angrier and angrier. The more I thought about it, the more furious I became. These people had deliberately and specifically excluded me and my children from a major family event, then had the nerve to post it all over social media for everyone to see. Tommy came over around 8 o'clock that night and could immediately tell that I was really upset about something. You look like you're planning someone's demise, he said, settling into my living room chair. I might be. I showed him the Facebook video again on my laptop and watched his facial expression get progressively more disgusted as he watched the whole thing. This is some seriously messed up passive-aggressive nonsense, he said when it finished. What are you planning to do about it? That's when I got my idea. I went to my bedroom and gathered up all the birthday presents that we'd bought for the party. The fancy jewelry box that Emma had picked out after spending an hour in the store, the expensive perfume that Mom had mentioned wanting, a cashmere scarf, and some gourmet coffee that she'd been talking about for weeks. Probably close to $400 worth of stuff in total. I brought everything to the living room and started methodically unwrapping each item while Tommy watched with growing amusement. What exactly are you doing here? I'm returning every single one of these things, I said, laying everything out on the coffee table in neat rows. If we weren't good enough to be invited to the party, then our presents aren't good enough for her either. Tommy started grinning. Oh man, this is going to be really good. I took a clear photograph of all the unwrapped gifts spread out across my coffee table and sent it to our family group chat with a simple message. Since we weren't invited to the party, I'll be returning all of these tomorrow morning. My phone immediately started buzzing with incoming calls and text messages. I ignored every single one of them. You're not going to answer any of those? Tommy asked. Nope. Let them wonder what I'm thinking. About an hour later, someone started pounding really hard on my front door. I looked through the peephole and saw my dad's pickup truck sitting in my driveway. Showtime, Tommy said, clearly enjoying the drama. I opened the door and Dad immediately pushed past me into the house, his face bright red with anger. What in the world is wrong with you? He shouted, posting that ridiculous picture in the family chat like some kind of rebellious teenager. You invited half the neighborhood except your own son and grandchildren, I said calmly. What's wrong with you? Tommy stepped into view behind me, and Dad's expression shifted slightly. He knew that Tommy didn't take garbage from anyone and wouldn't hesitate to speak his mind. This is private family business, Dad said to Tommy. I'm just here observing the situation, Tommy replied with a casual shrug. Dad turned his attention back to me. We needed to keep things low-key this year. Jessica's been going through some difficult stuff lately. What kind of difficult stuff requires excluding your grandchildren, but including Tyler and all the neighbor kids? Dad didn't have any kind of reasonable answer for that question. He just stood there glaring at the unwrapped presents on my coffee table, like they had personally insulted him. You're embarrassing the entire family with this childish behavior, he finally said. I'm embarrassing the family? I actually laughed out loud. You people are absolutely unbelievable. He turned around and stormed out of my house without another word. After he left, Tommy just shook his head slowly. Your family has more problems than I thought they did, and that's really saying something. The next morning, I spent several hours driving around to different stores and returning everything. I got about $350 back in cash, which I deposited directly into the kids' college savings accounts. But I definitely wasn't finished with them yet. Not by a long shot. After the birthday party disaster, I didn't hear anything from my family for about 2 solid weeks, which was actually pretty nice and peaceful. No guilt trips, no requests for money, no manufactured drama. The kids asked about Grandma and Grandpa a few times, but seemed to accept my explanation that they're dealing with some family stuff right now. Then I started noticing some really strange things on Mom's Facebook page. She was posting all these photos of her and Jessica looking super close and happy together. Pictures of them having coffee on the front porch, cooking dinner together in the kitchen, watching movies on the couch. The captions were all about how blessed she felt to have her successful daughter home for an extended visit. This struck me as really weird, because Jessica supposedly had this high-powered marketing director job down in Austin. She was constantly posting pictures from business trips and fancy restaurants, always talking about her major clients and her important campaigns. According to Mom and Dad's constant bragging, she was making something like $80,000 a year and living in this trendy downtown apartment. But in Mom's recent photos, Jessica looked completely different. Tired and worn out. No makeup. Wearing old, faded clothes. Not the polished, professional Instagram version of herself that she usually presented to the world. Tommy noticed the change too when I showed him the posts on my phone. Your sister looks like she's been living rough, he said, scrolling through the pictures. What happened to that hotshot marketing career she's always bragging about? I didn't know the answer to that question, but I was definitely about to find out. My Aunt Carol called me the following weekend. She's Dad's sister and has never particularly liked my mom, so she tends to be pretty brutally honest about family situations and drama. Did you know that Jessica's been living with your parents for over 2 months now? She asked without any kind of preamble or small talk. What do you mean? She lives in Austin. Not anymore, apparently. I ran into her at the grocery store last week and she was using food assistance benefits. Food assistance? The supposedly successful marketing director? Carol went on to explain that she'd bumped into Mom at the grocery store, and Mom had accidentally let slip that Jessica had moved back home temporarily to help with some family issues. But when Carol asked Jessica directly about the situation, she got all defensive and quickly changed the subject. Something's definitely not right here, Carol said, and your parents are being really secretive and weird about the whole thing. I started paying much closer attention to Jessica's social media after that conversation. She never posted anything from Austin anymore. All her recent photos were clearly taken at Mom and Dad's house or around our hometown. Her Instagram account had gone completely quiet, except for occasionally reposting old photos from better times. Then Tommy, who's basically like a detective, when he gets curious about something, decided to do some investigating on LinkedIn. You need to hear this, he called me at work the next day. Your sister got fired from her job back in November. Her LinkedIn profile says she's exploring new opportunities, which is basically corporate speak for completely unemployed. November. She'd been unemployed for almost 5 months and nobody had bothered to tell me. While I was working overtime shifts and taking care of my kids completely on my own, my parents were secretly supporting their golden child and pretending like everything was perfectly fine. But that wasn't even the most interesting part of Tommy's investigation. He managed to find her public Venmo transactions, because she's apparently not very smart about privacy settings. She's been paying rent on that Austin apartment with Venmo payments from someone called Mom L. Your mother has been funding her entire fake lifestyle this whole time. So the successful marketing director was actually just an unemployed mooch living off my parents' retirement savings while they excluded my children from family events for being too chaotic. I was finally starting to see the real picture here, and it was making me absolutely furious. About a week after I discovered the truth about Jessica's employment situation, I got a text message from Dad. "We really need to talk with you. Can you come over to the house on Sunday afternoon?" I knew exactly what this meeting was going to be about. They'd finally run out of money to support Jessica's fake lifestyle, and now they needed their reliable cash source, me, to bail them out of the mess they'd created. I told Tommy about the text, and he immediately wanted to come with me to the meeting. "No way am I missing this conversation," he said. "This is going to be more entertaining than anything on television." Sunday afternoon rolled around, and I drove over to my parents' house with Tommy riding shotgun. Jessica's beat-up Honda Civic was parked in the driveway. The same car she'd had since college. Definitely not the BMW that she claimed to be driving in Austin. Mom answered the front door, and her face immediately fell when she saw Tommy standing behind me. "Oh, I was hoping this could be a private family conversation," she said with obvious disappointment. "Tommy is family to me," I replied firmly. "He's been more supportive and honest than you people have been. We all gathered in the living room, and Mom brought out coffee and store-bought cookies, like this was some kind of pleasant social visit." Jessica was sitting on the couch looking really uncomfortable, wearing sweatpants and an old college t-shirt. Dad cleared his throat and got straight to business. "So, we wanted to have a serious talk with you about Jessica's current situation." "What situation would that be?" I asked, even though I already knew exactly what he was referring to. Mom immediately jumped into the conversation. "She's been going through a really difficult time lately. Her company had major layoffs and she unfortunately lost her position. It's absolutely not her fault. These things just happen in the corporate world these days." Jessica nodded along with the story, like she was the innocent victim of circumstances beyond her control. "It's been incredibly stressful," she added. "I'm actively trying to find something new in my field, but the job market is absolutely terrible right now." Tommy made a quiet sound beside me that might have been suppressed laughter. "So what exactly do you need from me?" I asked directly. Dad and Mom exchanged meaningful glances before Dad spoke up. "Well, she's been staying here temporarily while she gets back on her feet financially, but it's been putting a strain on our budget, and with our fixed retirement income. You want me to give you money," I said flatly. "Not give exactly," Mom said quickly. "More like a temporary loan, just until she finds a new position." "How much money are we talking about here?" Another meaningful glance between my parents. "Maybe $2,000 a month for a few months," Dad suggested, "just to cover her basic living expenses." I almost started laughing right there. They wanted me to pay $2,000 every month to support the same sister who had been too good to include my children at her birthday party. "Jessica," I said, looking directly at her, "how long have you actually been unemployed?" She shifted uncomfortably on the couch. Since last November." "And how long have you been living here with Mom and Dad?" "Since December." Tommy leaned forward in his chair. "So let me make sure I understand this correctly. You've been unemployed for 5 months, living off your parents' retirement money, but somehow that didn't prevent you from excluding your brother and his children from the family birthday celebration?" Jessica's face turned bright red. "That decision wasn't mine to make, but you certainly went along with it," I pointed out. Mom tried to redirect the conversation. "Let's not get distracted by past issues. The important thing right now is helping family members when they need support." "You're absolutely right," I said, standing up from my chair. "Jessica definitely needs help. She needs to get a job. Any job. The fast food places are hiring." The room went completely silent. Jessica looked genuinely horrified at the suggestion. "She's not going to work at some fast food restaurant," Mom said indignantly. "She has a college degree and professional experience. So do lots of people working in retail and food service," Tommy pointed out. "Welcome to the real world." I headed toward the front door. When Jessica gets any kind of job, literally any job at all, and apologizes directly to my children for excluding them from the party, then maybe we can discuss me helping with something reasonable. Until that happens, you're completely on your own. As we walked out, I could hear Mom starting to cry and Dad saying something about family obligations and responsibilities. "That went really well," Tommy said as we got into my truck. "But I definitely wasn't finished with them yet. Not even close." About a month after the awkward money meeting, things had been completely quiet on the family front. No phone calls, no text messages, no Facebook posts trying to guilt me into family gatherings. I figured they were just waiting for me to change my mind and come crawling back with my checkbook ready. Then, Jessica called me directly, which was pretty unusual since we barely ever talked one-on-one about anything. "Hey, can we maybe meet for coffee sometime this week?" she asked. I really want to apologize for everything that's happened. I was skeptical about her motives, but curious enough to agree. We arranged to meet at a coffee shop near my workplace. She showed up looking significantly better than she had at my parents' house. Makeup applied, decent clothes, hair styled properly. She ordered a $6 specialty drink, which seemed pretty odd for someone who was supposedly completely broke. I'm really sorry about the whole birthday party situation, she started. Mom and Dad made that decision, and I should have spoken up for you and the kids. Okay, I said, waiting for her to get to the real reason she'd wanted to meet. I've been applying for jobs everywhere, but the competition is really intense. I actually have an interview next week for a marketing coordinator position, but I need some professional clothes and I don't have the money for them right now. There it was. She wanted me to buy her an interview outfit. How much money are we talking about? I asked. Maybe $300? Just for a decent suit and some professional shoes. I'll definitely pay you back as soon as I get hired. I studied her face carefully. Jessica, are you actually looking for work? Or are you just telling people that? She looked genuinely offended by the question. Of course I'm looking. Do you think I want to live with Mom and Dad forever? Something about her tone really bothered me. She sounded more annoyed about living with them than grateful that they were supporting her completely. What kinds of positions are you applying for? Marketing director roles, brand manager positions, senior coordinator jobs, positions that match my experience level and education. Have you considered applying for entry-level positions? Retail management? Customer service? Anything just to get some income flowing? Her face scrunched up like I'd suggested she start dealing drugs. I'm not going to work at some place like Target. I have a degree and 5 years of professional experience. 5 years of experience at one job that you got fired from, I pointed out. She immediately got defensive. I wasn't fired. It was a company-wide layoff. Jessica, Tommy found your old supervisor on LinkedIn. You were terminated for consistently missing deadlines and showing up late to work. Her face went completely white. She obviously hadn't expected me to fact-check her version of events. How dare you investigate me like I'm some kind of criminal? Because you've been lying to everyone for months about everything. She stood up abruptly, grabbing her expensive coffee. Fine, don't help me then. But don't come complaining to me when Mom and Dad need expensive medical care and can't afford it because they spent all their savings supporting me instead of keeping it for emergencies. That was basically a direct threat. Either help fund her lifestyle or watch my parents go broke paying for it. After she stormed out, I called Tommy and told him about the entire conversation. She's absolutely unbelievable, he said. But you know what's interesting? I drove past your parents' house yesterday on my way to work and saw a car in the driveway that I'd never seen before. Silver Toyota with temporary license plates. That was definitely interesting information. I decided to drive past their house on my way home from work that day. Sure enough, there was a brand new silver Toyota Camry sitting in the driveway. I recognized the dealership logo from the place where I'd bought my truck the previous year. I called the dealership and spoke to my old salesman. Hey, this is Dave Morrison. I bought a truck from you guys last year. I was wondering if you could help me with something. My parents just bought a silver Camry from your lot, and I wanted to make sure they got a fair deal on it. Oh yeah, the Hartwell purchase. That was actually a really smooth transaction. Your sister paid the full amount in cash. The whole thing was finished in about an hour. Paid cash. Jessica, who was supposedly broke and couldn't afford interview clothes, had just purchased a $25,000 car with cash money. I thanked the salesman and hung up, my mind racing with questions. Where exactly did Jessica get $25,000 in cash if she'd been unemployed for 5 months? Then I remembered something important. Last year, my parents had called me asking for advice about refinancing their house to take advantage of better interest rates. I'd thought it sounded like smart financial planning at the time. I called my friend who works at the local bank and asked him to look up their mortgage information. What he told me made my blood pressure skyrocket. They'd completed a cash-out refinance 6 months ago, borrowing $40,000 against their house equity, right around the time Jessica had moved home temporarily. They'd been funding her entire fake lifestyle with a second mortgage on their house, then had the absolute nerve to ask me for money while she went out and bought herself a brand new car. I was completely done playing nice with these people. It was time for some serious consequences. After discovering the cash-out refinance and Jessica's brand new car purchase, I realized that my family wasn't just entitled and selfish. They were actively trying to scam me. They'd borrowed against their house to fund Jessica's fake lifestyle, then attempted to guilt me into paying monthly support while she drove around in a car that was newer than mine. But here's the thing they had forgotten about. I'm not just some pushover they could manipulate indefinitely. I'm a facilities manager who knows how to research situations, plan solutions, and execute complex projects. I was about to treat this family situation like the most important project of my entire career. First, I called my lawyer and explained the complete situation to him. I asked what legal options I might have available. Well, he said thoughtfully, if they took out that refinance loan under false pretenses or used your name somehow without permission, that could potentially be fraud. But honestly, the most effective approach is probably just removing yourself from their financial equation completely and letting them face the natural consequences of their own decisions. That conversation gave me a brilliant idea. I spent the following week doing extensive research on their financial situation. I discovered that mom and dad's new mortgage payment was $800 higher per month than their previous payment. With dad's postal pension and mom's part-time receptionist job, they were bringing in approximately $3,200 monthly. Their basic living expenses, utilities, food, insurance, and other necessities were probably around $2,500. That left them with maybe $700 each month to cover the mortgage payment increase. They were already completely underwater financially, and Jessica's $25,000 car purchase had probably eliminated most of their remaining cash from the refinance. I also discovered something very interesting through my cousin Danny. His wife works at the state unemployment office, and she mentioned that Jessica had never filed for unemployment benefits. If she'd actually been laid off legitimately like she claimed, she would have been eligible for substantial benefits. The fact that she'd never applied strongly suggested she'd been fired for cause. Armed with all this research, I developed my plan. Tommy came over that weekend, and I showed him all my findings and documentation. "This is absolutely beautiful," he said, looking through all my research notes. "You're going to completely destroy them." "I'm not destroying anyone," I corrected him. "I'm simply removing myself from their financial support system and letting natural consequences take over." The first step was straightforward. I blocked all their phone numbers and social media accounts. No more guilt trips, no more manipulation attempts, no more emergency requests for money. The second step was more satisfying. I called my Aunt Carol and several other family members and very calmly explained the real situation. I told them about Jessica's fake job in Austin, the cash-out refinance, her new car purchase, and the birthday party exclusion. I didn't ask them to take sides or get involved. I just made sure they had accurate information instead of mom and dad's victim narrative. The third step was the nuclear option. I remembered that 3 years ago, I'd co-signed for a home equity line of credit for my parents. They'd claimed it was strictly for emergency home repairs and promised they'd only use it if absolutely necessary. I'd completely forgotten about it until I was organizing my old financial paperwork. I called the bank and discovered they'd been making regular draws against the credit line for the past 6 months. Nothing enormous, just $500 here and $300 there. Probably funding Jessica's lifestyle expenses beyond what the refinance money could cover. Here's the beautiful part. As the co-signer, I had the legal right to freeze the account or demand immediate repayment of the full balance. I froze the entire account. Within 1 week, my phone started buzzing constantly with calls from numbers I didn't recognize. They were obviously trying to get around my blocking by calling from Jessica's phone, mom's work phone, and even asking neighbors to call me. I didn't answer any of them. 2 weeks later, I received a handwritten letter in my mailbox. It was from Mom, and it was honestly the most pathetic thing I'd ever read in my life. "Dear David," it began, "we know you're angry with us, and we completely understand why. We made some serious mistakes and we're truly sorry. Jessica has been struggling much more than we let on, and we were trying to protect her privacy and dignity. We should have been completely honest with you from the very beginning. We're in a very difficult financial situation now, and we desperately need your help. The house payment is much higher than we expected it would be, and Jessica's car payment is more than we thought it would be. We're behind on several important bills, and we're genuinely worried about losing the house. We know we don't deserve your help after how we treated you and the children, but we're truly desperate. Could you please call us so we can work something out? We're willing to do absolutely whatever it takes to make this situation right. We love you, and we miss you, and the grandchildren more than you can imagine. Love, Mom and Dad. P.S. Jessica wants to apologize to you personally and directly. She knows she made terrible mistakes, and she's ready to take any job necessary to start paying her own way." I showed the letter to Tommy, who literally started laughing out loud when he finished reading it. "Car payment?" he said. "I thought she paid cash for that thing." That's when I realized exactly what had happened. She'd probably used most of the refinance money as a down payment and financed the remaining balance. So they were dealing with both a higher mortgage payment and a car payment they couldn't afford. I waited another full week, then sent my own letter back. "Dear Mom and Dad, I received your letter, and I appreciate that you're finally being somewhat honest about your situation. However, I think there's been a fundamental misunderstanding about our relationship moving forward. For years, you've treated me like a backup bank account while treating my children like inconveniences. You excluded us from family events, lied constantly about Jessica's situation, and then tried to manipulate me into funding her lifestyle while she purchased luxury items. You made these financial decisions without consulting me, despite expecting me to bail you out when they inevitably went wrong. You borrowed against your house to fund a lifestyle you couldn't afford, then asked me to pay monthly support for someone who was driving a car that was nicer than mine. I am not responsible for fixing problems that you created. Jessica is 29 years old with a college degree. She can get a job like every other adult in America. You're both adults who can make your own financial decisions and live with the consequences. I hope you're able to work things out somehow, but it won't involve my money. When you're ready to have an honest, respectful relationship that includes my children as full members of this family, please let me know. Until then, don't contact me. Dave P.S. The home equity line of credit will remain frozen until the co-signer arrangement is properly dissolved. You can contact the bank to discuss refinancing it under your own names only. I never received any direct response to my letter, but Carol called me several weeks later with a very interesting update on the situation. Your parents are selling the house, she informed me, and Jessica moved in with some guy she met through online dating. Apparently, he has money and doesn't mind supporting her. Good for her, I said, and I genuinely meant it. 6 months later, I heard through various family connections that mom and dad had downsized to a small 2-bedroom apartment across town, and Jessica was engaged to her new boyfriend, a divorced plumbing contractor with 2 kids who seemed happy to take care of her financial needs. My kids ask about their grandparents occasionally, but they've adjusted to the new situation remarkably well. We spend holidays with Tommy's extended family now, and Emma and Jake absolutely love playing with his nephews and nieces. We've built our own chosen family that's based on genuine love and respect instead of manipulation and financial obligation. Sometimes Tommy brings up the whole situation and just shakes his head in amazement. I still can't believe they thought they could run that kind of scam on you, he says. The best part is they basically did it to themselves, I always reply. I just stopped enabling their bad behavior. And that's the absolute truth. I didn't destroy my family. I simply stopped allowing them to destroy me financially and emotionally. Sometimes the most effective revenge is simply stepping out of the way and letting people face the natural consequences of their own choices. They made their bed with their lies and manipulation and financial irresponsibility. Now they get to lie in it permanently.